Hi, I'm Carlton Moe, but you can call me Carl. And I am reshooting this intro right now because I totally screwed up the name of this show I'm going to talk about. And now the dishwasher's running, so I'm sure you can hear that. Great. Anyways, today I'm going to try and do a little experiment talking about my experience seeing Ainadamar. Ainadamar. I think I mispronounce it later in this video, you'll see, but because there's like an A in a place I wasn't sure there was. Ainadamar, I think is what it is. And I saw the show last night at the Metropolitan Opera here in New York City, and I just want to do a little experiment. So here we go. The experiment for today that I'd like to do is I didn't know anything about this opera when I went to go see it. I didn't read the synopsis before. What I'm going to attempt to do, because I think story is so important to theater, I'm going to attempt to convey to you what I understood of the story being told in this show, as best as I was able to observe and witness last night, and I can recall today. And then I'm going to read you the synopsis and see how close I got. And I think it's an interesting experiment because it's a test of my own ability to observe and analyze, and it's honestly it's more that than anything. It's the subjective part of it as it applies to me, because I'm so selfish. But it's also, how well does that stuff read from the stage without having read ahead? So now I'm going to try to tell you the story of... So I think the opera is set during the Spanish Revolution. It's in Spanish. It makes plenty of mention of being in Spain. There is talk of revolution amongst the characters, which I'll say just now, very seemingly little dialogue between characters. There was enough, but there was a lot of just kind of declamations of things. It was declamatory, but there were some moments of dialogue between characters, and those were interesting enough, and you can glean some story from that. And so then your main characters going into this, the show kicks off with, a flamenco dancer, this man who is, absolutely thrilling to watch. And all of the dancing is very high level. All of the flamenco, all of the choreography, just astounding. So from what I could glean, it's set during the Spanish Revolution. They mention the fascists. So then main characters would be, there's a soprano. I think she's an actress, and I think her name is Margarita, but she's portraying, or, there's discussion of her portraying a character named Mariana, can't remember the last name, Pinellas, Peneus, something with a P. And she's portraying that character via some kind of play or something that's been written by another character named Federico. And then there was another character, I cannot remember her name, but she was a student of Margarita, and she was just kind of there. I don't know that she did much or accomplished much besides being, just being a someone who is supportive of the main soprano, Margarita. And I think that character was also a soprano, or maybe a mezzo-soprano. But she was just yeah, go, do it. You can do it. Oh, I'm so worried about you. That kind of stuff. There wasn't a lot of agency on the part of her character. So yeah, in the beginning we're in Spain. Revolution's popping off. This play she's about to be in by this guy, Federico, and I think they're a thing. I think they're into each other. This Federico person, with their writing, whether it's poetry or writing plays or whatever, it's very revolutionary. It's very anti-establishment. It's resistant to the current, government in power. And you get that impression because there's a character who comes out and sings in a very stylistic way. Almost as if to portray the dictator here, and he comes out and he's basically kill the revolutionaries, view them as less than human because they are, and they're bad. And I think and some of that's directed at Federico. And then I think there's a part where Federico says you should flee to Margarita, and Margarita's you should come too, and Federico's I can't. I think. But then Margarita and the student of hers go to Cuba go to Havana. Again, I think this is what's happening. And then while she's in Cuba, she finds out that they capture Federico, they imprison him, and sentence him to being executed with a few other people who are there to be executed. And there's this whole scene of them, a vicar of Christ coming in to prepare them for being executed. And then that's what happens. And then Margarita's so she hears about it in Cuba and is so upset she goes back to Spain, I guess, to put on this, revolutionary play that he wrote or something. But then I think she gets caught as well, and again the dictator comes and he's like, get him, whatever, right? Quash this revolution, whatever. And then and I think they get her. I think she gets killed as well, because I think Federico gets shot. It was like a firing line kind of execution. And I don't know if that happens to Margarita, but I think they do execute her. I honestly don't remember. I don't think there was like a happy ending or anything. I think it was just like, maybe there's the implication of like, but we know how the revolution ended, and so that's the real ending that happens in your mind after you've witnessed this. I think you're meant to just bear witness to like how like brutal it was. And I think that's it. I can't hardly remember the ending apart from, I think she dies. She's killed. And then it ends. So yeah, a show that happened in 90 minutes, and I feel like how it makes you feel through what sounds and visuals are happening in combination with each other is probably more in the essence of like what's trying to be accomplished with this piece, and less so telling a story. And I think there's room for that. Sorry, our like building porters out vacuuming the hallway. So I think there's room for that kind of art, even at the Metropolitan Opera. Also, just to say, a 90-minute show at the Met is minuscule. Most short operas at the Met are 2 hours 45, 2.5, with like 1 or 2 intermissions. Usually if you're seeing a show, like a one-act opera that's about this long, 90 minutes, it would be a double bill. You'd get an intermission, and then there'd be another one-act opera beside it. So yeah, and that's something you'd more commonly see at the Met. But it didn't bother me. And now I'm going to open this playbill and read the synopsis for you as it appears in the program notes. And with any luck, I have gotten it pretty close, but who knows? It says, synopsis. Emerging from darkness, the mythic world of Federico Garcia Lorca comes into being. The sound of horses on the wind, the endless flow of the fountain of tears. Ainadamar. Oh, Ainadamar. Oh, there's an extra A in there. Ainadamar. The sound of horses on the wind, the endless flow of the fountain of tears. The trumpet call of wounded freedom, and the aspiration and determination that have been denied generation after generation echo across the hills. Okay. Teatro Solis, Montevideo, Uruguay, April 1969. Okay, so we're in Uruguay, not Spain. It's later, 1969. That's not the Spanish Revolution I was thinking of, but... So we're in Uruguay, April 1969. The voices of little girls sing the opening ballad of Lorca's play, Mariana Pineda. What did I say before? Not that. But I got Mariana right. The actress Margarita, got that one. Margarita Xirgu, Xirgu? How do you pronounce that? She looks back across the 40 years since she gave the premiere of this daring play by a brilliant young author. In the last minutes of her life, she tries to convey to her brilliant young student, Nuria, the fire, the passion, and the hope of her generation that gave birth to the Spanish Republic. She flashes back to her first meeting with Lorca in a bar in Madrid. Okay, so, alright. There being like a time leap was not at all obvious or apparent. Like if we're like in 1969 to start out the show, and then we go back in time to like her remembering her meeting this guy, meeting Federico, I don't know how we were supposed to know that. And I guess so the Spanish Republic, so maybe there is some Spanish Revolution stuff. So we're in a flashback, I guess, in Madrid, now 40 years in the past. Lorca tells her that the freedom in his play is not only political freedom, and sings a rhapsodic aria that opens the world of imagination, a world inspired by the sight of the statue of Mariana Pineda that he saw as a child in Granada. Oh yeah, they did say Granada a bunch. I guess that's why I just assumed Spain. And I remember the aria with the statue, because I thought that's a great aria. I have mezzo-soprano friends who would kill that. And the stuff they did with the whole statues, they were essentially like these women portraying statues on these pedestals that were doing these crazy things with like body scarves or large pieces of cloth draping their bodies, whatever you'd call that. And that was a cool part of the show. Mariana was martyred in 1831 for sewing a revolutionary flag and refusing to reveal the names of the revolutionary leaders, including her lover. Her lover deserted her, and she wrote a serenely composed final letter to her children explaining her need to die with dignity. Dang. So this person, Mariana Pineda, was killed for being revolutionary and protecting her then lover, but then the lover bails on her? Margarita, back to Margarita, reflects on the parallel fates of Mariana and Federico. The reverie is shattered by the call of Ramon Ruiz Alonso, the Falangist, F-A-L-A-N-G-I-S-T, who arrested and executed Lorca in August 1936. Okay, so I wasn't totally off with the Spanish Revolution in the 30s. I'm not a history buff. I just vaguely know these things. I know a lot about this. I only know that much about the Spanish Revolution because of another play I saw that had to do with the Spanish Revolution. And I think it's mentioned in the movie Oppenheimer as well. But I don't know Spanish history. I live in America. I'm a dumb American. But anyways, okay. So she reflects on the parallel fates of... And I guess, yeah, that's the whole thing. Federico's gonna die, get killed. But so she reflects on that. So is like the amount to which we're spending time in, I guess, this show's present, Margarita's present, which is 1969 in Uruguay, apparently, and her memories of the past, however that's being divided up or split up in the show is completely opaque. I had no idea. It all seemed like it was all linear and happening at the same thing. And just to say, reverie is like a memory. The memory of that is shattered by the guy who I said is like the dictatorial, like the guy who's like, get him. I guess his name is Ramon. Ramon Alonso. Ramon Ruiz Alonso. And then, okay, so then that was all under this heading, first image, Mariana. We're under a new heading now called second image, Federico. Oh my God, I've been saying Federico. It's Federico? Is that right? It is Federico. Like not Fred. Just Federico. I have a problem. My brain is broken. I can't read the words that are in front of me. Okay, second image, Federico. The Ballad of Mariana Pineda sounds again, taking Margarita back to the summer of 1936, the last time she saw Federico. Okay, so now we've gone back to 1936, I guess. Did we ever leave it? Wasn't that where we were? We're still there. Or maybe we did jump back so Margarita could reflect on their parallel fates, I guess. But again, it was not clear that like we're in 1969, we're in 1936. It all just felt like the same time. The young Spanish Republic is under attack. The rising of the right-wing generals has begun. There are daily strikes and massacres. Margarita's theater company is embarking on a tour of Cuba. She begs Federico to come. He decides to go home to Granada instead, to work on new plays and poetry. Okay, so Margarita didn't flee this necessarily. Her theater company was going on tour to Cuba. But I got the part that she is begging Federico to come too. And he decides to stay. He's going to stay and write plays and poetry. Plays and poetry, okay, so yeah, he's just a writer. Author, I guess is, yeah, the most apt. No one knows the details of Lorca's murder. Margarita has a vision of his final hour. The opportunist Ruiz Alonso arresting Lorca in Granada and leading him to the solitary place of execution, together with a bullfighter and a teacher. So I guess those are the other guys getting executed. And they're getting executed at this fountain of tears. The three of them are made to confess their sins. Right, because there's like some like priest or vicar or whatever there. Then they are shot. I got that part. Firing line. 2,137 people were murdered in Granada between July 26, 1936 and March 1, 1939. The death of Lorca was an early signal to the world. I see. The third image, this one's called Margarita, which is different than the first image being Mariana. For the third time, we hear the Ballad of Mariana Pineda. One more time, the play is about to begin. The story retold for the generation of Margarita's Latin American students. Margarita knows she is dying. She cannot make her entrance. Others must go on. As her heart gives way, she tells Noria that an actor lives for a moment, that the individual voice is silenced, but that the hope of a people will not die. Sorry about that, my light, that's on batteries, died. I have it plugged in, but it's perched very precariously, so the lighting might be a little different now. The fascists have ruled Spain for more than 30 years. Franco has never permitted Margarita, the image of freedom, to set foot on Spanish soil. Margarita has kept the plays of Lorca alive in Latin America while they were forbidden in Spain. The spirit of Lorca enters the room. He takes Margarita's hand and he takes Nuria's hand. Together they enter a blazing sunset of delirious, visionary transformation. Margarita dies, offering her life to Mariana Pineda's final lines, "I am freedom." Her courage, her clarity, and her humanity are passed on to Nuria, her students, and the generations that follow. She sings, "I am the source, the fountain from which you drink. We drink deeply." Oh, and the synopsis was written by Peter Sellers, who's an amazing director. Okay, so interesting. Again, the bouncing back and forth between periods in time was not clear to me at all. And I messed up some people's names. I was messing up their names even staring at their names being written in this program right now. So she does die, but she's not executed. She just dies from something as she's about to make her entrance in this play that Lorca wrote and that she's been teaching to people in Latin America because it's been illegal to teach it in Spain, which is a very fascinating aspect of this. I feel like through this experiment, like what I'm trying to maybe shed a light on is like a problem I find with a lot of storytelling that takes place in various mediums nowadays, but especially like in films, franchise films especially. There's like the audience is kind of taken for granted a little bit. There's almost like an amount of knowledge about a subject that's assumed. It's assumed by the people making this stuff that the audience will just know this stuff already. And that leads to certain details or aspects of storytelling that, it doesn't paint the complete picture, because it's expecting you to be able to fill in the missing parts with what you already know about it. And what I don't like about that is, like, if you don't know anything about that stuff already, then you're lost. And I think it's really up to people telling stories to be able to tell a compelling story that doesn't rely on any outside knowledge. Like, everything I need to know should be there. It doesn't take hardly anything to get the audience educated, to build the world you're trying to create, to create the characters. A lot of people think that all of that relies so heavily on exposition, and it really doesn't. It can really just be as simple as a single line uttered by a character that tells you everything you need to know about them. A single action that happens on stage or in a movie or whatever, or even just like a picture, a shot, a set piece. That's like, okay, we're in Spain, we're outdoors, we're in an office, we're, whatever. We're in the future. I really wanted to suss out whether I thought that was happening here. Like, after I saw the piece and realized, okay, there's a heavy theme of the Spanish Revolution in this, I think. How much of that do I need to already be acquainted with for me to, like, really appreciate this piece or not? And I think however much I was acquainted with that already, I did appreciate this piece. Though I'll say perhaps maybe not as deeply as people who are either from that culture or from a culture that experienced something like what they experienced in that culture. And so on some level, maybe I felt like I was lacking details. And, a lot of those details got filled in by reading the synopsis, which I'm grateful for. Thank you, Peter Sellers. But I feel like I shouldn't have to read a synopsis before I watch something. Like, I should just get it all from that, and then maybe if I want to read the synopsis later. So, at the end of the day, interesting experiment. I was definitely off on a lot of key details, but I knew enough in terms of, like, the characters, I guess, and certainly, like, the stage actions were clear enough. Like, yeah, Federico Lorca got shot with those other guys who also got shot. It just wasn't clear when that was happening, or at the very least, maybe it was clear when that was happening, but it wasn't clear that other things were happening 40 years later than that in the show. And I think that detail, like I say here at the end, where it was important that this character, Margarita, was remembering all of this 40 years in the future, because it meant she spent this time in Latin America preserving these plays, these meaningful plays from this person she, I guess, loved, but I mean, loved in some type of way. Like that story of like keeping this stuff and teaching it to people in a place where it would still be appreciated, and she could do it without threat of, because it's illegal in Spain and stayed illegal for basically that whole time. Like that's so interesting to me. It's not even that like Margarita went through all that effort for so long to keep these plays alive and preserved her work with the playwright, with the author, and imparted that onto others and future generations, and that's so cool and so interesting. But also this just sort of compellingly tragic part is that everyone in Spain, where it would be illegal for those plays to go on, was not getting that. They were missing out. They were missing out on something. They were missing out on these, by all accounts, though I have no direct knowledge of this, probably really great plays. So there's an interesting argument about like the sort of tragedy of oppression and censorship and tyranny that I think, could almost be its own show, frankly. That would be maybe the companion piece to this. This is your first one act, and then you double bill it with another one. That one would be fleshing out more of that time, that 40-year span of time where Margarita was fighting to keep this art and this knowledge alive. Now I'm just like blathering on about like the idea of all this, what's inspiring me, what I'm blathering on. I don't know if I'll see the revival of this. I will say it is very striking, and I would say go see it. It's worth seeing, even if it's just the once. Like I saw this just now. If it came back like, I don't know, even 5 years from now, maybe 10 years, I'd probably go see it again. Just because there's some interesting singing, very interesting staging, and the dance is really, really awesome. That's all I've got on Ainadamar. I should Google it. Do you think Google can pronounce this? But yeah, thank you for going on that journey with me through my own ignorance and failures to observe accurately whilst watching theater. It was surely humbling. But at the same time, I don't think I can put all the blame on me. But like I say, I'm either very, very not smart, which is likely, or I'm too smart for my own good. And with that, I will say thank you for watching, and I hope to talk to you again real soon.